I'm now very excited to talk about RWAs, where it's going, what still needs to be built. I have the great pleasure of welcoming three great speakers. One we just heard. Please give a warm welcome to Benjamin Minko, CEO of Multiverse X, Konstantin Dagianis, Financial Services Partner at PwC Germany, and Thomas Rees, the CEO and founder of Philanthropy. First of all, GM, how's it going?
GM. Great.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, to start, what do you guys like in turn, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes on what you're seeing in the RWA space at the moment, and how your business or your profession is interacting with it. I'll start with you, Konstantin.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Maybe I'm a little bit the exotic guy here today because my clients are mostly, my primary clients are banks and institutions. So
Exotic. That's exotic.
That's exotic, yeah. I'm partner at PwC in the financial services practice, so I consult and help financial institutions to get into that, to get in the crypto market on a compliance and regulated way. I also, of course, have large exchanges and crypto custodians as clients and help them get into the crypto market. I work on the whole EU regulation. I can explain it to them. I help them in the implementation. And of course, I have a lot of major industrial clients who want to tokenize their assets, or they want to get new products in their lines. And we help them with different chains to tokenize their businesses and bring that to market. And we see actually, because you asked about that, we see a huge traction now. I'm getting a lot of requests from financial institutions, from exchanges, but also from traditional companies like industrial companies who really want to understand that market. We are still in a very, very early phase. They want to understand that market. We have to explain them how it works and how they cooperate with different blockchains, and how the whole go-to-market process is, and what kind of regulatory requirements they have around it, and to show them there are legal requirements, there are regulations around it, so they are in a safe space now, because we have MiCA, we have a lot of different other regulations who can help them with that.
Great. Thomas, I have to maybe add a note here. Thomas is jumping in for Patrick, who had an emergency and couldn't be here with us. Tom, great founder on Multiverse X. Tom, say something about what you're doing and perhaps how it interacts with this entire field of RWAs.
Yeah, for sure. Firstly, thank you for the kind words and everything there, and it's great to be here today. Very exciting, a lot of good discussions. Firstly, I think what Konstantin said is very accurate. From a builder standpoint, it is very unsure exactly how things go, which is why we need some incredible people like him there to guide us, especially in those conversations. A little bit on us very quickly, just in case people don't know. We are creating a platform where when people donate money to charity, we can follow exactly where that money goes and the impact it has at the end of the day. So we're bringing this all on the blockchain, immutable, transparency, decentralized in a lot of those ways as well. And I think the RWA space is a very broad one. It's a very exciting one, and a lot's happening there. And as we see people like BlackRock and other institutions start to come into the space, a lot of the time you see the money come in, and then all of a sudden the eyeballs also come in. And there's some great things going on. I mean, Benny's speech just earlier there mentioned just a few of the amazing applications for it. You can also go into the legal side with actual contracts and everything like this being in the RWA space. So it's very exciting times and a lot of complicated issues when talking about those space too.
Yeah, Benjamin, throwing it to you, and also this premise, you said it's the most boring space there is, then you elaborate on some stuff, and maybe it's not as boring as it might appear on the surface. So Like, what are you seeing? You already touched on a bunch of things, but maybe elaborate on one or two things that you find interesting right now.
I think there's a lot of conversation on how people generally perceive something at first without digging at all into it. And if they perceive that this is the most boring thing, it may be the most interesting and exciting thing, but there's something there that people just look at and flag in a certain way. So I do think this is probably one of the largest spaces that's not even a kind of debatable thing, just because here you have the largest product market fits with stable coins and so forth, but then also all the assets in the world that are visible to people already, those exist and will somehow be related to this vertical. So I think what's important first is people need a box to flag things into. This is why they call it RWA, or they call it something else. But once they have a box and they understand that the box is made of this type of assets, regulation, and some kind of tokenization process, then they can look at it much more carefully and so forth. So I think a lot of today will be about surfacing a lot of these projects that exist, that have existed for a very long time, have made great progress. And for instance, the fact that we're using NFT ticketing today and it's live, that's super cool. That's just one of the many cool things that are happening in the ecosystem. And I think today is a good lesson in digging into some of this, just flagging one, taking a look at it, looking where it fits and how it brings value, and quite curious to actually see some of these things unfold.
And let's talk about, Konstantin, you mentioned it, so I'll go to you with this one as well. MiCA and regulation, and we're going to hear a bit more about that later on in a keynote. But tell us, like, you're saying like new people are approaching you, and this is something that's very important to people entering the space, that there is something like security and that they know that they can build a sustainable business. Are there particular verticals or particular industries that are kind of leading the charge there? How is it looking? What's the general overview?
Yeah. So I think what Benjamin said is very on point, because it's just a new step in the evolution of digitalization. So, of course, traditional economy wants to digitalize their business, make it more efficient, make it more cost efficient, especially in these times. And bringing something on the blockchain is that, exactly. Of course, it's a new technology. It is not like I'm automating a process with robotics, which is much easier because I have it in my company. I am running the system by myself. So I have to trust different parties. And of course, trust takes some time to gain that trust. And I think in the EU, we are in a very, very good situation right now, because we have a set up legal regulation with MiCA. Of course, when you haven't worked in this regulatory space and you read this hundreds of pages of documents, you are overwhelmed and you say, wow, how can I really achieve all this? I have to tell you, banks and all the other financial institutions like insurances and so on have that regulations over the 15 years already, and they are still struggling to fulfill these regulations, but I would say they are at 90%. When I talk to new startups, maybe big crypto custodians, where you guys say, well, this is a big company, they have to fulfill this, they are still at, I would say, 60%. So it's, of course, a big thing, but you have time to complete it, you have to understand it. Of course, you have to hire a lot of people. It will be a costly thing to fulfill MiCA and the other regulations which basically come with MiCA, because you have DORA in the EU as well, which is another 1,000 pages you have to...
exciting stuff.
So it's a lot of regulation, but you, as soon as you fulfill this regulation and you comply with it, then you are a trusted party. And we see that with a couple of exchanges and large players. They establish in the market, and they are offering, we have talked about it, like on-ramp, off-ramp solutions. And if you already have that regulatory setup, then of course you get much quicker in the market. You get to the traditional companies much easier, much quicker, and you are the one player who has achieved to be regulated. And I think we don't have a lot of these players right now, so it's a big chance to really go into that direction. And in the long term, that will help. Of course, at the beginning, it's hard to achieve that level, and it's stopping a little bit innovation. Of course, regulation always has that, but in the long term, you will win that race through regulation.
Yeah, interesting. Benjamin, as a foundation, is there something that you guys are focusing on in particular? Anything that you're like, this is something where we really want to, incentivize or bring in new people?
So one thing that will happen even today during the day, to take a bit what Konstantin was mentioning, is just trying to translate these hundreds of pages that are requirements to the builders, to the community. That's a process in itself. At first, as he mentions, it hits you, and you really think this must be nuts. I mean, how can someone actually think about building something and then deal with hundreds and hundreds of pages that will have to be important requirements very, very soon? But once you start to look at it, sleep a bit on it, maybe sleep a few nights on it, not only one night, you start to get the translation of what it actually means, and then you can really get an edge and an advantage. So that, I think, will be very important, especially for the European players, to dig a bit into that. We'll try to organize, let's say, several conversations, workshops, and so forth, just to bring this translation to the community of builders. And then when it comes to use cases, I think we've not seen almost anything in terms of the landscape. We're scratching the surface. Everybody is essentially scratching the surface. And when you look at those dots that I was putting there, and look at how many dots there are outside of this space, this just gives you the perspective of how early this entire vertical is, and that at the end of the day, to the extent that it becomes much more obvious what the benefits are and how companies will be able to leverage them, people will start racing to see this. So my intuition essentially tells me that everything we're seeing in the AI space will just serve to tremendously accelerate this. Because, of course, for as long as you just see a kind of static environment, you don't race to get the cheese. Once you see that everyone else has understood this, that the AI will help you with translation, help you with some integration, help make things a lot simpler, you'll want that, and you'll be able to get it a lot faster. So quite excited to actually see this integration of AI into this entire process.
And I think maybe on that point, when I started my career 15 years ago, I had a lot of discussions with software developers, mainframe actually software developers, so really builders, but in this age, and I had to explain them how that regulation worked, and they actually said the same thing. Now I'm in front of this machine programming all the day, developing, and now you're telling me I have to test, I have to document this, I have to document that, and at these times, you know that it was super complex to document something in mainframe because it was not made for that. So to really, and through AI now, we are much in a better space to help us basically, you're coding and the program is documenting the code in the meantime. So that was not a topic when we had to do mainframe documentation. So I think I understand that it hits you hard, but it's much easier than 15 years ago, when the regulation was pretty high for banks. They had to build their mainframe systems, and they really had to do so many things, and it was exhausting. Alone what they had to document around it. And now it's like more automated, and through AI, I think that helps a lot, yeah.
And that's where I wanted to bring in Tom also on the AI. I know this is actually a very important element of what you're building with Philanthropy, but also wanted to kind of specifically ask, you know, starting a new business, getting actually a government grant, which is quite significant for like a blockchain project, an innovation grant. And AI is part of this. Is there something where you're still like, I can't believe this doesn't exist? Like, why hasn't anybody built this? What is this journey like? You know, perhaps for the first time encountering a bunch of regulatory problems and then ways to overcome them. What do you see is being built, and what do you wish you didn't have to build yourself but was already there?
Quite a lot. No, it's a great question, and AI really does just level the playing field in so many different ways. I mean, just for little small pieces where we need to decide like how best to do this, or we want to speed up a little bit of the process, like documentation, like you were saying. We might start with a first draft of AI and then, you know, really go in, customize it ourselves, because at the end of the day, it's not good enough to completely replace people, especially in those levels. But it is an amazing tool to speed up that whole development cycle, to speed up the way that you apply for things, because you're applying for so many different funding opportunities, grants, and all of these things here. And to your point, Lucas, that's kind of one of the things that we're trying to build as well, where we can leverage a lot of that AI to then allow charities to be able to apply for grants much quicker. And that's a huge thing. Like, they have to scale thousands of websites, read hundreds of documents, very complicated. And then at the very end, after 200 hours, they maybe realize there's one little bit in the fine print that means that they're not eligible. And, you know, AI is just huge in these areas. There's a lot of pain points. And it's also a lot of what Benny says a lot with, I think, the truth machine aspects, where you can actually start to leverage blockchain with the AI as well. And I think that is one of the big problems with the blockchain industry in terms of RWA, oracles, and all this stuff. How do you verify that this data is accurate when you're bringing it on? And I think that's a really good use case.
Yeah, trust in education, I think, is an interesting thing. Do you see, particularly, Konstantin, an education gap in the businesses approaching you? Is there a lot, like, still, what do we do? We want to, but we don't know how?
So yeah, AI, of course, is a huge topic.
Yeah.
And we have a new regulation in the EU, again, for that as well, the EU AI Act. So there
Please accept our humble contribution.
So there is a lot new stuff going on. And actually, every of my clients uses AI now or wants to use it and implements it. We are building a lot of governances around security frameworks and defining ethics, what is allowed with AI. So yes, trust in AI is a huge topic, and it's basically very similar like trust in IT the past years, but now it's more complex, and it's a bigger topic. So I can tell you in the next 5 to 10 years, there will be so much work in the financial institutions, but also in the industrial companies. They will work with AI, but also all the topics around building trust around AI. So every employee can really use AI in their processes and in their everyday business, and can trust AI. And the processes can really work only with AI, because they really automate a lot. They have to be competitive in the market. So they have to have a very high trust level into AI, because if you as a bank customer interact with a bank and there is no human behind it, of course, the trust has to be very high. And I think hospitals is another topic where AI is a very important topic, and they are working a lot with in this sector. And there, the trust is immense, because if you're, as a patient, go to the hospital and you interact at the beginning with AI, it has to be a good AI, and so it has to be trustworthy.
Yes.
Yeah. So to have somebody telling you, okay, this AI, I have done specific tests or analysis, and it's not manipulative, it's ethic compliant, it's a responsible AI. So this is, I think, very, very important, and will get more important as we see more and more processes with AI-enhanced processes, basically, yeah.
For sure. Getting towards the end here, I want to once again kind of throw the view into the future. What's being built is going to be addressed today quite a bit, and we're super happy to see all of this stuff. But what do you also, Benjamin? What do you think is not there yet? Where do you see things in the RWA space going? You mentioned already this intelligent RWA, things like that. What's the path for the next 2, 3, 5 years that you and the foundation are seeing?
I would just take what Konstantin was mentioning and pinpointing two forces that I think will be the most interesting forces to intersect and to center society around. This will be 100% AI and blockchain technology. Without blockchain technology, AI will go haywire and will take some steps that once they hit, it will become obvious for everyone that you can not only build the best, let's say, tools, the best insights, the best breakthroughs, but you can also very easily weaponize these things, and you don't want that. So the question will be, how can you create this accountability structure that enables the entire world to essentially exchange trust at scale, at the speed of light? So that's literally AI agents everywhere for almost everything you're trying to do, and blockchains underpinning this type of interaction, making it unforgeable, making it transparent, and enabling humans to still remain on top. Because this can very easily go in a different direction that we don't want to go into. So this, I think, is the most exciting discussion and exploration that we're going to see with enterprises, with startups, and both where the wealth will be created, but then also where the most difficult challenges will be faced.
Same question to you, Tom. Yeah, developments that you foresee, perhaps particular in the sector that you're most familiar with, in the innovations, also AI, charity, that kind of work. Anything that interests you, or any particular slant that you see happening?
Yeah, I think I do agree a lot with what Benny says there. Trust is a huge thing these days. In my presentation later, I'll be talking about it quite a bit. You've seen the charity industry trust drop from like 74% to 48% in like the last decade. That's huge levels. You see similar things with politicians, with all of these other people, institutions, sometimes as well. And I think adding some kind of layer of that transparency in a decentralized manner can build a lot of that trust back, especially with the immutable aspects of the blockchain itself. I do see some solutions with the aligning AI with human incentives, and I think the best way to really encode that is with blockchain technology. Because if it's just in some database, the AI, for example, could just go in and hack it and then change the whole thing. Whereas in a blockchain, they'd have to have a lot of compute power for a long time to be able to do that. So someone would probably be able to figure it out and change it. So I think that's one of the major ways I really see things going. But with RWA, there's so much exciting stuff, democratizing like real estate and supply chain management. There's so many great topics and some great builders here today that will be presenting as well.
I'll give you the closing words, perhaps from the institutional perspective.
Yeah, so I think real-world assets is a very big topic. It's a immense market. So if you look at that, how many billions there are to really be digitalized, basically, I think it's huge. I think we have to work on the accessibility, so everybody can access it, and on the awareness. I think this is the most important, because I think the technology is there. It is in an evolution state where you can use it, but the people have to understand it, and they have to get easy access. So we need a lot of on-ramp, off-ramp solutions for that, and we need accessibility for these solutions. They have to be really easy to access, like you use an app, you can easily invest in real-world assets. I think the institutions have understood that it's a good idea to get into that business, so we will see that push. We just need to get that bridge from institution to the investor in an easy way, like it is for investing in different stocks. This has to work easier because it's more digital with the real-world asset investments. And then I think it will take off and it will be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time and your expertise. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.